Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Would you like to finish that mantra?
Did I not finish it? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so speed. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Puri Rajakacharya Ashtotar Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mayi ki jai, Jamuna Mayi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktavrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome to Sri Caitanya-caritamrta reading with His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami and friends. It is Thursday, January 25th, 2024 in New York, and we are reading in the Hare Krishna. Thank you, Tulsi Priya, for the kirtan. Thank you very, very much. We are reading tonight in the Caitanya-caritamrta Adi Lila, chapter 7. And someone can remind me exactly where we are. I think we are in the midst of verse number 114, or perhaps we had finished with that and we're starting with text 115 this evening. I'm not sure. My notes don't reflect our exact position. Maharaj had sent me a message, 2 messages earlier today, saying that the schedule where he is in Jagannath Puri is such that he may not be able to join us today. And if he is somehow able to log on, he's most unlikely to be able to participate. So, Hare Krishna. So today will be a day of the and friends part of Jayādvaita, Swami and friends. So hopefully whoever is here will be willing to contribute by reading and commenting, and that always makes it lively and lovely. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you so much, Saraswati Mata, for the confirmation that we're starting with text 115. So I'll start us off and then we'll see how far we get. In these verses, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as you remember, he's setting straight all the Mayavadi sannyasis of Benares regarding the proper way of understanding the Vedanta Sutra. And Prabhupada in his purports goes into some detail on how the Vedanta Sutra is misinterpreted by the followers of Shankaracharya. And as we read last time, there's one individual, Sadananda Yogendra, really twisted the direct meaning of the text to come up with conclusions that are just so far against the actual conclusions of the Vedas that I think we were all commenting that what a thankless task Shankaracharya had in presenting this Mayavada philosophy. So hopefully things will turn more towards the cheerful and positive and direct meanings of the Vedas in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's upcoming verses. So text 115, Prakritya-kariyamane Vishnu kalevara, Vishnu ninda aranahi ihara upara. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continues, one who considers the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu to be made of material nature is the greatest offender at the lotus feet of the Lord. There is no greater blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada says, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami explains that the variegated personal feature of the Absolute Truth is the Vishnu Tattva, and that the material energy which creates this cosmic manifestation is the energy of Lord Vishnu. The creative force is merely the energy of the Lord, but the foolish conclude that because the Lord has distributed himself in an impersonal form, he has no separate existence. The impersonal Brahman, however, cannot possess energies, nor do the Vedic literatures state that Maya, the illusory energy, is covered by another Maya, There are hundreds and thousands of references, however, to Vishnu Maya, Parasya Shakti, or the energy of Lord Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Krishna refers to Mama Maya, my energy. Maya is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is not that he is covered by Maya. Therefore, Lord Vishnu cannot be a product of the material energy. In the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra, it is said, Janmadyasya yataha, indicating that the material energy is also an emanation of the Supreme Brahman. How then could he be covered by the material energy? If that were possible, material energy would be greater than the Supreme Brahman. Even these simple arguments, however, cannot be understood by the Mayavadi philosophers. And therefore, the term Mayaya Pahrityajnana, which is applied to them in the Bhagavad Gita, is extremely appropriate. Anyone who thinks that Lord Vishnu is a product of the material energy, as explained by Sadananda Yogindra, should immediately be understood to be insane, for his knowledge has been stolen by the illusory energy. Let's pause here. There's a lot to discuss, actually. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistang Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kata Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prakritya Kariyamane Vishnu Kalevara Vishnu Ninda Aranahi Ihara Upara. One who considers the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu to be made of material nature is the greatest offender at the lotus feet of the Lord. There is no greater blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as we've heard, as we've discussed, is trying to destroy the mental platform on which all of these arguments of the Sharirika Bhashya are based. The mental platform is that, as we see here, Lord, commentaries of other Mayavadis in their parampara say all kind of things that are just so twisted that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying here to set things very, very straight for our healthy understanding. Krishna himself says that Janma Karma Chame Divyam, that if you understand that my appearance in this world and my activities are transcendental, evam yoveti tatvata, in truth, then tyaktva deham punar janma, you don't take birth again. But the trap that the Mayavadis fall into is accepting the indirect rather than the direct meaning of the Shastras, and B, thinking that Krishna's body is material and that these verses require a lot of interpretation, which Prabhupada is making it clear to us that they don't. You just take it the straight way, and then you get the benefit from the verses. Otherwise, it's just a labor of love of your word jugglery. Yeah, the problem is often that it's not properly understood the relationship between Krishna himself and his energies and the emanation of the material world. If you try to say that there's only one thing and that one thing is Brahman and that Brahman is not transformed, then you cannot explain why the material world should exist. There's just no reason for it. But if you understand, as we are presented in the Vaishnava philosophy, that there's the supreme Brahman from whom Brahman emanates, and then there's so many different categories of Vishnu Shakti that account for the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of all material phenomena. And it's quite comprehensive, and it really answers any question that might arise. But according to the texts that we're reading here, Mayavada philosophy cannot even satisfactorily or reasonably explain why there should be a material world at all. And Prabhupada says that even these, what does he say? Even these simple arguments, however, cannot be understood by the Mayavadi philosophers. Therefore, the term Maya Paritya Jnana is extremely appropriate. In those verses in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada outlines the various categories of men who do not surrender to Krishna. Namam dushkriti na mudha pratpadyante naradhama maya paritya jnana asuram bhavam ashritaha. There's a list. If you're the lowest of mankind, or your knowledge is stolen by illusion, or you partake of the atheistic nature of demons, asuram bhavam ashrita, maya, lowest of mankind, dushkritina, bad doer, then these arguments won't make sense to you, the most simple arguments. And I like what Prabhupada says here, is that anyone who thinks that Lord Vishnu is a product of the material energy should immediately be understood to be insane, for his knowledge is stolen by the illusory energy. There's no meaning to the supreme personality of Godhead. If such a personality is somehow subordinate or a product of material energy, which is only an emanation of Brahman, who was it? Yes, Maharaj likes to tell the story of how when he was himself going through this section of the Caitanya-caritamrta, he came to Prabhupada and said, these arguments of Sadananda Yogendra don't make any sense to me. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's right. They don't make any sense. Tulsi Priya says, in either the Lilamrita or one of the Prabhupada Nectar books, someone asked Srila Prabhupada, why is there anything? Srila Prabhupada answered, because Krishna wants pleasure. Yes. Eko Bahu Shyam, the one becomes many, as we'll read in the next verse. Yeah, because that's the meaning of the omnipotence of the Lord, that he contains himself, the Vishnu Tattva, and unlimited Jiva Tattvas. Let's continue with this purport. Yes, Lord Vishnu cannot be placed within the category of the demigods. Those who are actually bewildered by the Mayavada philosophy and are still in the darkness of ignorance consider Lord Vishnu to be a demigod. In defiance of the Rigveda mantra, Om Tad Vishnu Paramang Padam, Vishnu is always in a superior position. This mantra is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Mata Paratarang Nanyat. There is no truth superior to Lord Krishna or Vishnu. Thus, only those whose knowledge has been bewildered consider Lord Vishnu to be a demigod, and therefore suggest that one may worship either Lord Vishnu, the goddess Kali, Durga, or whomever one likes, and achieve the same result. This is an ignorant conclusion that is not accepted in the Bhagavad Gita 9:25, which distinctly says, Yanti Deva Vrita Devan, Yanti Maj Yajino Pimam. The worshippers of the demigods will be promoted to the respective planets of the demigods, but devotees of the Supreme Lord will go back home, back to Godhead. Lord Krishna explains very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita 7:14 that his material energy is very difficult to overcome. Daivi hiesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. Maya's influence is so strong that even learned scholars and spiritualists are also covered by Maya and think themselves to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, however, to free oneself from the influence of Maya, one must surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Krishna also states in the Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Mam eva ye prapadyante, mayam etang tarantite. It is to be concluded, therefore, that Lord Vishnu does not belong to this material creation, but to the spiritual world. To misconceive Lord Vishnu, to have a material body, or to equate him with the demigods, is the most offensive blasphemy against Lord Vishnu, and offenders against the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu cannot advance in spiritual knowledge. They are called Mayaya Pahrita Jnana, or those whose knowledge has been stolen by the influence of illusion. I'll just finish reading the purport here and then see what discussion we may have. One who thinks that there is a difference between Lord Vishnu's body and his soul dwells in the darkest region of ignorance. There is no difference between Lord Vishnu's body and Vishnu's soul, for they are Advaya Jnana, one knowledge. In this world, there is a difference between the material body and the spiritual soul, but in the spiritual world, everything is spiritual and there are no such differences. The greatest offense of the Mayavadi philosophers is to consider Lord Vishnu and the living entities to be one and the same. In this connection, the Padma Purana states, Arche Vishnu Shila Dhir Gurushu Naramatir Vaishnave Jati Buddhi Yasyava Naraki Saha. One who considers the Archa Murti, the worshipable deity of Lord Vishnu, to be stone, the spiritual master to be an ordinary human being, and a Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste or creed, is possessed of hellish intelligence. One who follows such conclusions is doomed. Hare Krishna. Any discussion on these points? Seems to be a quiet night, not that many of us here. Maharaj is in Jagannath Puri. Everybody else doing everybody else's kind of things. It seems that Prabhupada makes it very clear here. Davi's child says, my comment somehow not appearing. Okay, maybe you want to try again, post it, make sure it's going to everyone, and then we'll see. Still not appearing, apparently. Anyway, I hope all these points are clear. It seems that Prabhupada is not leaving any stone unturned in his commentary, helping us to understand without any doubt the real nature of the defects of Mayavada philosophy here.
I have a comment.
Yes, please go ahead.
Maybe I'm a little bit philosophically speculating here, but Prabhupada in other places has, well, I know in one instance he says we should show respect to Mayavadi sannyasis. Devi's Child Prabhu has made comments, with a more liberal attitude towards them, saying, well, they're on a path, or they're taking a different route, and they may come to the right point. Forgive me if I'm misrepresenting, but it occurs to me that, every sampradaya, every mat has their mission and their goal and their overall mood or approach. And ours is, we want to go back to Godhead. We want to be pure devotees who are only interested in serving Krishna. And we are personalists. So we can't, if we're going to succeed in our mission and we're going to have the proper mood and we're going to get to the destination or achieve the goal that we desire, we have to take this strong attitude towards things that are inimical or contrary to our mission and our goal. Because if we have an I don't want to say open mind, but it's we're all about consciousness. So if you're entertaining the idea, and I'm not saying this against anyone or anything, but for our specific purposes, both as a sampradaya, as a mat, as an individual, we have to stay fixed in the understanding, So yeah, these things come up. Others have different understandings, but if you're so neutral in one sense, then your consciousness is already divided. We don't have to act inimically. We don't have to put out fatwas against Mayavadis, or go after them in armed battle or anything like that. But we have to have a very clear understanding of why we don't want to do that, why we don't want to be open-minded or liberal or understanding too much. Academically, Prabhupada can understand it. Probably Prabhupada could argue Mayavad philosophy better than any Mayavadi. And so I think his appreciation and respect was also, in one sense, maybe academic, in the sense that, these are people who are trying to approach the absolute truth, and you respect somebody like that. But in terms of taking it to heart, how can we do that? How can we do that and still maintain our mission, our goal, both personally and collectively? It's like, if you're, what is it with Arjuna? Do you see this? Do you see that? I see the eye of the bird only, because that's the target. That's the target. I'm going to take the liberty of reading Devi's Child Prabhu's comment. He says, maybe their lack of experience of Krishna and Krishna's love made them think Krishna doesn't have a form, because impersonal form of God believed to be lacking both the love and the divine leelas for Krishna. If they looked deeper, maybe they would have found Krishna. Okay, that's a reasonable position. I would say to that, I don't have experience. I mean, I can't say I'm experiencing Krishna's love, or experiencing Krishna, but I have experience of my spiritual master, my Diksha, my Shiksha gurus, devotees. So we are in practicing sadhana, we have so many opportunities to experience love in connection with Krishna, even if it's not directly. So I think in one sense, maybe trying to say you experience Krishna or Krishna's love is maybe premature, because, I don't want to claim to have that experience, but I have other experiences that at least in my neophyte stage, are just as good, because that's what I'm capable of. That's my capacity for accepting love or experiencing love and understanding is coming from other devotees and coming from the spiritual masters. So anyways, I don't know if my response to you, I'm not trying to answer a question for you. I'm just dialoguing here. So don't take it that I'm trying to instruct you, please. Hare Krishna. And I think,
Right.
is that Saraswati has her hand up? Yeah.
Yes.
Pranams to all, and very well said, Tulsi Priya Mataji. I'm always impressed with your realizations, which are extremely helpful. And I think you really did hit the nail on the head in terms of the absolute truth. What are we really open-mindedly looking for, searching for? Because if we are coming with some preconceived ideas already, or if we want the truth to bend to what we think it should be, then we're never really going to arrive at the absolute truth, because we're already coming with some preconceived notions. So I think that's also something that we have to really ask ourselves in all honesty. Are we really open to hearing what that absolute truth is? Or does that absolute truth have to fit into what I want it to be or what I think it ought to be? So that's one thing. And also, sometimes when we're preaching, especially I find with those in Indian bodies, they might have seen the Ramayana or Mahabharata or read about it, and then especially with the Ramayana, then they come and say, well, Lord Ram, he worshipped Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva in that sense is superior because he worshipped Lord Shiva. So unless you actually hear everything from a self-realized soul, who can tell you what did that mean when Lord Ram worshipped Lord Shiva? Did it mean he was in an inferior position? What did that mean? You're always going to draw your own interpretations, which of course we already know. We're already, as a conditional soul, we're already impacted by Maya and the 4 defects that go with being a conditional soul. So to rifle through the Shastra and thinking we could do it all on our own, that's also such a great error on our part. There's so many seemingly contradictions, conflicts that are going on in the Shastras that sometimes we can't really understand what it is. Even like hearing about Krishna or any of his avatars pastimes, we can be so bewildered because we don't really understand what is going on unless it's explained to us. And sometimes in a layman's term, it has to be explained. Not all of us have such a massive high degree of intellect either. Some of us really would like to have things explained in very simple terms. And then if we can accept it, that's great. And this verse talks about blasphemy, and just this morning in our temple Bhagavatam class, we've reached the verse where Jarasandha is blaspheming Krishna, and I was just thinking with Shishupal, and there's people that are just blaspheming Krishna. If he comes down, then he's just an ordinary person in a material body that has descended. So then they give themselves permission to blaspheme him. So. And then even in general terms, it's always Krishna's fault. Whatever happens, it's his fault. Whether he has a form, that's his fault. We can blaspheme him. If we agree that he has a spiritual form, we can blaspheme him. So in other words, if our tendency is just to find faults and just to, bring him down some way or another, then we're not really going to be in a position to accept the absolute truth and even progress in our spiritual life. If our tendency is just to find faults, if I accept he has a spiritual body, I'm still going to find a fault. If I think am Mayavadi and I think he has no form, I'm going to still find faults. Then that we're never really going to approach the absolute truth. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Saraswati Mata and Tulsi Priya. As you were speaking, I was thinking how Krishna says, Ye yatamang prapadyante tangas tataiva bhajamyaham, that every individual has the individual capacity and inclination to approach Krishna in his own way. And depending on what that is, Krishna responds accordingly. So if we want to see him impersonally, Krishna will empower us to see only only the impersonal Brahman. If, as Saraswati Mata was saying, we want to blaspheme him, Krishna, guess who will give us the inspiration of how to really expertly blaspheme him? Just for example, that's why, as you all were saying, the importance of accepting and surrendering to the spiritual master is so key for understanding and living the philosophy, because we're very apt to be misguided by our own minds, by so many other self-proclaimed avatars, religionists, spiritualists, authors, public figures. Davi's child made a point that I wanted to read. I'm addressing Tulsi Priya, I'm guessing. Mataji, spiritual master is said to be the representative of Krishna. So in a way, we are experiencing part of Krishna's love through our spiritual master. And he goes on to say, if I kept animosity towards other people or their way of spiritual life, I am in a way hindering my sadhana and corrupting my wish of having a clean and pure mind in service of Krishna. Unless they purposefully stop me from my service to Krishna, I don't interfere in their spiritual beliefs. All right, Hare Krishna.
May I
Tulsi
comment
Priya,
on that?
go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we have to have animosity. If we see a crazy person walking down the street, maybe they're naked and, throwing their clothes away and babbling in no human language. If we say that they're crazy, that's not animosity, that's telling the truth. And if we are not strong enough to do anything to help that person, of course, we should stay away from them because they might harm us. So I don't think Mayavadis can't hurt us unless we believe what they say. So, but when we're new devotees, when we're neophytes, there's a tendency, when you're pious, there's a tendency to believe a lot of things unless you're given, straight understanding. Yes, he says we may be thinking someone can offend Krishna, but there is nobody powerful enough to touch even one hair of Krishna. No, of course not. But we can have offensive mentalities towards Krishna. We shouldn't assume that we can never have an offensive mentality towards Krishna. And if just thinking that Krishna's personality is a product of Maya, there's nothing more offensive than that. And yet it seems so benign. If we said that Krishna, smelled bad or was not beautiful or something, that would be less offensive than to say that Krishna is not a person or that his personality is a product of Maya. Because at least if you say somebody is ugly or they smell bad, they're still a person, but we know he's not, and we don't say that. But it's easy. The mind can go in either direction. The mind can go towards impersonalism or it can go towards personalism. So we have to protect ourselves. And part of protecting ourselves is aversion therapy. If you just say, oh, they just have a different way. Okay. That means different means equal, but if you say, no, that way is crazy, it's wrong. And there's a philosopher, I was thinking of this before the class, there's a philosopher who says when you choose something, you're not just choosing yourself, you're choosing for everybody, because you choose what you think is the best thing. And if it's the best for you, and in our minds, we're all the most important person in our universe, then it has to be good for everybody. If you're, whether you're a Christian, a Vaishnava or whatever, if you actually choose that and you're not just in it out of laziness, deep in your heart, you have to believe that that's the best way for everybody. And if you believe it's so good, you're going to tell other people, this is the best thing. That's what preaching is. You believe it so much that this is the best thing that you want other people to have it. But you can't really believe something is the best thing, and say, yeah, well, they just have a different way, because then you're making things equal, and they're not. If you really believe in something, it can't be equal. So anyways, that's enough for me. Hare Krishna. Saraswati. Oh, and I wanted to say Saraswati was giving me some love. She just proved my point right off the bat there. Thank you, Saraswati. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tulsi Priya Mataji. I just wanted to add that a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada here in our local temple, she was making, well, I don't know what the exact point was, and which I inserted my little bit, and I was just telling them about how, oh, that's right, yeah, she was talking about Krishna leaving Vrindavan, and I was saying, well, he doesn't really exactly leave Vrindavan as according to the scriptures, prakritya form and apragatya form. So she said, yes, but, why does he have to go into the invisible form? And then I was telling her about the Brihad Bhagavatam, how it's explained that the reason Krishna doesn't go back to Vrindavan was because how he felt that he didn't want to agitate the gopis and the Vrajvasis actually further into more anxiety, thinking that they'll think, oh well, he's going to be leaving, so they'd always be so anxious. So she blasted me. And said very angrily, well, what does he really think? What does Krishna think is going on here? Does he think that, those that are married, because I said he was already sporting with the queens of Dwarka while and even though he was with them, they were feeling this impending separation from him. So and that's the reason why he didn't go back. And she just blasted me. She said, well, what does Krishna think is going on in the hearts of women that love him? Does he honestly think that we would be worried that he would be leaving us any second if he were to come and be with us? Oh my God, she blasted me so badly. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what I think or you think, Krishna knows the best, but it seemed to me like it was such a criticism that she was saying, well, all those that are in love in a conjugal mood of service with Krishna, do you think that they would honestly want that for him not to come because he felt that they were worried, that he was worried that they'd feel this impending separation? No, which lover would want this? Oh my God, she blasted me so badly. I guess she put me in my place, but I don't think she convinced me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna is right.
There are so many arguments going on in this world. That seems like a worthwhile one to have. But we don't need to argue at all. So.
Yeah. There's some comments from Davies Child that we might have missed here. He says, that must be our lack of faith, right? If we believe Krishna is the supreme being, why are we even listening to those kinds of people? Because they can never harm Krishna and his glory. We just have to believe in Krishna. And let's not waste our time listening to them, because we have too little time in this lifetime to serve Krishna. Let Krishna save them. Yeah. And here we're reading Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing just that. He's going right into the nest of Mayavad philosophy and saving them. In their face, as they say. So we might not have this potency, but at least by reading this and applying it in our lives, we can defeat the Mayavadi lurking in our own heart. We have time to start reading text number 115. I was going to say, is Tulsi Priya available to read? If not, then I would ask Saraswati Mata.
I am not available to read. Please, Saraswati, read.
Okay.
Text 116.
Well, 115. No, you're right. 116. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. Ishvarera tatva yena jvalita jvalana jivare swarupa yache sfulingira kana. The Lord, translation, the Lord is like a great blazing fire, and the living entities are like small sparks of that fire. Purport. Although sparks and a big fire are both fire, and both have the power to burn, the burning power of the fire and that of the spark are not the same. Why should one artificially try to become like a big fire, although by constitution he is like a small spark? It is due to ignorance. One should therefore understand that neither the Supreme Personality of Godhead nor the small spark-like living entities have anything to do with matter. But when the spiritual spark comes in contact with the material world, his fiery quality is extinguished. That is the position of the conditioned souls. Because they are in touch with the material world, their spiritual quality is almost dead. But because these spiritual sparks are all Krishna's parts and parcels, as the Lord states in the Bhagavad Gita, Mama Vemsha, they can revive their original position by getting free from material contact. This is pure philosophical understanding. In the Bhagavad Gita, the spiritual sparks are declared to be sanatana, eternal. Therefore, the material energy, Maya, cannot affect their constitutional position. Someone may argue, why is there a need to create the spiritual sparks? The answer can be given in this way. Since the absolute personality of Godhead is omnipotent, he has both unlimited and limited potencies. This is the meaning of omnipotent. To be omnipotent, he must have not only unlimited potencies, but limited potencies also. Thus, to exhibit his omnipotency, he displays both. The living entities are endowed with limited potency, although they are part of the Lord. The Lord displays the spiritual world by his unlimited potencies, whereas by his limited potencies, the material world is displayed. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.5, the Lord says, Aparyam itastva anyam prakritam vidime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yeyedam dharayati jagat. Besides these inferior energies, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises of all living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. The Jiva Bhuta, the living entities, control this material world with their limited potencies. Generally, people are bewildered by the activities of scientists and technologists. Due to Maya, they think that there is no need of God and that they can do everything and anything, but actually they cannot. Since this cosmic manifestation is limited, their existence is also limited. Everything in this material world is limited. And for this reason, there is creation, sustenance, and dissolution. However, in the world of unlimited energy, the spiritual world, there is neither creation nor destruction. Can we pause here? It's quite a long paragraph.
Sure, please go ahead. Please comment as you like.
Okay, I don't really have too much to add here, but it just, as they've asked, why sometimes people ask, well, what's the purpose of my existence? If I have limited potency, then and Krishna's full in himself, he doesn't have the need of anyone or anything, then why am I even in existence? So sometimes, you have to think, well, Krishna he doesn't need anyone or anything. He is full in himself. But the reason why we as the marginal energy, parts and parcel of Krishna, are existing is to share in this beautiful reciprocation of love. Yes, Krishna doesn't need us. Thankfully, we need him. And to come to understand how we need Krishna so much, that is the point. That this reciprocation, by serving Krishna, by engaging in these different rasas with Krishna, we feel so fulfilled. So although in one sense Krishna is full in himself, he doesn't need anything or anyone in order to feel this completion. We absolutely need Krishna to feel fulfilled. So that is one thing that we should be so grateful that we actually are his parts and parcels and have this opportunity to engage in these beautiful, loving relationships with him. And what was I going to say about material creation? How we know that it's so limited. There's a start date and an end date for anything that we find in the material world, including all the different material bodies. But they make it very clear that that isn't the case in the spiritual world. Everything is eternal. There isn't a start date, beginning, middle, or end in the spiritual world. It's eternal. So these are some of my thoughts right now. Hare Krishna.
All right, Krishna, thank you very much. Would you like to finish reading the purport?
Okay, unless somebody else has any comments. So I don't know if anything else in the chat box, but I can finish.
I just wanted to say doesn't say anything new, but maybe just says something that you were saying from a different angle of vision. But I like it when Prabhupada says that, where does he say it there? To be omnipotent, he must have not only unlimited potencies, but limited potencies also. My sense is that most often people have a very limited idea of God, and statements like that really break open the limited concept of God. Another statement where Prabhupada says that to be God, one must be both conceivable and inconceivable, or else you're not God. That's
Right. And it's beautiful when we read Krishna's pastimes or hear of his pastimes, where he makes his devotees greater than him. Whether we think whether it's in the Vatsalya Bhav or as even Sakha, a friend, how he takes such great pleasure in allowing his devotee to take a greater position than him in these pastimes. Anyway, I'm going to finish reading. If the personality of Godhead did not possess both limited and unlimited energies, he could not be called. Did I read this? Omnipotent. Sorry. No, I haven't. Okay. Okay. Limited. Oh, it's just. If the personality of Godhead did not possess both limited and unlimited energies, he could not be called omnipotent. Anoranyan Mahato Mahayan. The Lord is smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest. He is smaller than the smallest in the form of the living entities and greater than the greatest in his form of Krishna. If there were no one to control, there would be no meaning to the conception of the supreme controller Ishvara, just as there is no meaning to a king without his subjects. If all the subjects became king, there would be no distinction between the king and an ordinary citizen. Thus, for the Lord to be the supreme controller, there must be a creation to control. The basic principle for the existence of the living entities is called Chidvilasa, or spiritual pleasure. The omnipotent Lord displays his pleasure potency as the living entities. The Lord is described in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12 as Anandamayo Bhayasat. He is by nature the reservoir of all pleasures, and because he wants to enjoy pleasure, there must be energies to give him pleasure or supply him the impetus for pleasure. This is the perfect philosophical understanding of the absolute truth. Hare Krishna. I don't really have further comments. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Prabhupada's presentation is so wonderful here. These are points that I don't know how many people think about very deeply, if they think about them at all. If all the subjects became king, there would be no distinction between the king and an ordinary citizen. If there were no one to control, there would be no meaning to the conception of the supreme controller. Very logical, yet nonetheless beyond beyond the Maya Parhita Jnana.
I just like to add that we know Krishna can expand into unlimited forms, and we know that when Lord Brahma stole the cowherd boys and the cows and the calves, and Krishna expanded, but still, even though we know he can expand into innumerable forms and still remain the king, but still the fact that as parts and parcels, we are there to reciprocate with him. And, I hope that we can surprise Krishna to some certain degree. Everything's not that he can't predict everything, even though he knows past, present, and future. I'd like to think that there are times when we can actually surprise him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well, we know that he can surprise us. I think gets proven on the moment-to-moment basis in our own lives. Hare Krishna. Certainly. So it's 7:57 p.m. in New York, and that means, yes, Davi's child says he will let us surprise him. Why not? What fun is it to be God if you don't get surprises? It's part of the fun of living. I was going to see whether Dana Mataji would like to lead us in our closing kirtan. Hare Krishna.
And try. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bye.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhajikacharya Ashtotara Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you everyone so much for your lively participation in tonight's class. Thank you, Dana Mataji, for the kirtan. Thank you, Tulsi Priya, for the opening kirtan. And thank you, Maharaj, for logging on. Although we weren't able to hear you today, hopefully we'll be able to hear you tomorrow, which is Friday. And please share these links with your friends so that they can also join us on Friday, if they so desire. Shri Caitanya-caritamrta ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami and friends ki jai. All right. Thank you, everyone, very much. Hare Krishna. Thanks again for tuning in.